Hello, Team 7 Blue. Today is the first day that we are learning about the upcoming essay for A Christmas Carol. Here is the essay prompt, aka essay question. It is dealing with comparing multimedia versions of A Christmas Carol. And that means that we are going to be comparing a segment of the play with a segment of the film or video. Here's the question that we're going to be focusing on. It says, various media versions of A Christmas Carol create the mood differently. Consider the scene when the ghost of Christmas past takes Scrooge back to Fezziwig's party. Write an essay in which you compare how the festive mood in that scene is established in the play versus the film. Use details from both the play and the film to support your answer. What's written below here in bullet format is basically the same thing that is up top, so I won't bother to read that to you. But this will be fun because we're going to focus the entire essay on Fezziwig's party, and we're going to be trying to prove how the mood is festive. Now, before we jump into that, a couple of things that we need to do. One is we need to review, what does mood mean? So we've talked about this before. It was one of our vocab words. Mood is how the reader feels after they read maybe an entire story or a section of the story. And there are lots of different ways that we can pay close attention to maybe a character's dialogue. Since we're reading a play, we're going to pay attention to the stage directions and get a sense of the situation. And in our case, we're going to be paying attention to Fezziwig's party and proving that it is festive. So the first step that we're going to be taking today is working on a graphic organizer. We're starting this today in class, and we will continue working with it over the next few days. Come Thursday, it is going to be due by the end of the day. So in class, we worked on, our first example was a model that I did. My example focused on proving that the mood of Scrooge's shop is tense. So I understand that that has nothing to do with Fezziwig's party, but again, this was just my example. And so I showed students how if I'm going to prove that the mood of Scrooge's shop is tense, the first thing that I have to do is I have to use the play and locate where are we in Scrooge's shop. Here we are in scene 1. Now if I go back to this graphic organizer, it says, what did you see in the text that establishes a tense mood? And I just started to brainstorm a few ideas. One thing I could be looking for is dialogue. So as I am skimming through scene 1, and normally I would really take my time with this, but in an effort to give you a shorter video, I will speed things along a little bit. I found a few things that I like. One piece of dialogue is down here at the bottom of page 253. It says, what else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas, out with Merry Christmas. That kind of sounds like it would support the shop or the office here being tense, because that's Scrooge being really nasty, especially to his own nephew. But I have to say, what I found to be even more tense doesn't show up until page, what is this, 256. Look right here. Scrooge says in his shop, if they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. That is not my affair. My business is. Whew! I don't think you can get any more tense than that. Here's the gentleman visitor just asking Scrooge for a donation, and Scrooge is basically saying, not only am I not giving you a donation, I don't care if the people die. In fact, I prefer that they die. That is tense. So I'm going to fill that in here, and I'm going to copy it word for word. It's very important that we get every capital letter correct, every piece of punctuation correct. So bear with me here as I copy this. I don't have to include a page number because this is a graphic organizer and I already included a page number right here. But at the end of this, I will at least write myself a reminder that this was Scrooge who was speaking. All right. Now, again, if I find another piece of dialogue that's even better than this one at proving that the mood of Scrooge's shop is tense, I'm going to delete this and replace it with the better example of dialogue. Something else that we could be looking for here would be stage directions. And I broke it down into two categories. One category could be the use of sound or music to create a tense mood, and another one would be characters' actions or expressions. So let's see if we were to go back into the play and continue to fish around a little bit. I wonder if I can find anything that has to do with, what was that next category? Sound. Anything that has to do with sound. Ooh, maybe right here. I'm looking in stage directions again. So remember what the stage directions look like in scene one, just to kind of go back to the very beginning. Here are some stage directions. This is where he goes into his office, but then I don't see any more stage directions here. As we continue on the left-hand side, no more stage directions. On the right-hand side, there are some, but it doesn't have anything to do with a tense mood. Let's see. Nope, nothing here. It's not until we get down a little bit further, and again, I am going quickly through this. Right around here, it says, as soon as Scrooge shouts, the girl and the carolers vanish, and Cratchit begins to close up the shop. So this is the part that I'm going to copy because there is a sound here. It's referring to Scrooge shouting and the carolers vanishing. So they were making a sound, right? All right, so let's see. Soon as Scrooge, let's see, in parentheses, as soon as Scrooge shouts, the girl and the carolers vanish. And Cratchit begins to close up the shop. That certainly does sound like it's adding to the tense mood. Scrooge is shouting, the girl and the carolers vanish. That's an interesting word choice there. And Cratchit begins to close up the shop. Okay. We're just brainstorming here. Remember, the graphic organizer is just a place for us to jot down some ideas. All right, so lastly, let's take a look at stage directions specifically related to characters' actions or expressions. So let's go back into the play. I can start again back at the beginning of scene one, and I'm looking just for these words that are in italics because those are indicating that they're stage directions. So nothing here, no stage directions on the left. On the right, I don't see anything tense. Ooh, until right here. This is really interesting. Scrooge is muttering, "Merry Christmas, wolves howling in a Merry Christmas." Imagine if he wasn't muttering, if those stage directions weren't even there. Then it would be more like Scrooge just saying it, normal. Scrooge would just say, "Merry Christmas, wolves howling and a Merry Christmas." It doesn't make a lot of sense, but the muttering is necessary because now we know he's kind of saying it under his breath, and it definitely adds to the tense moment because he's saying Merry Christmas here um, in response to what just happened with the gentleman visitor. So I'm going to copy that here. So this is on page 245. Oops. He is muttering, "Merry Christmas, wolves howling, and a Merry Christmas." Again, I just want to make sure it looks exactly as it does here. Same punctuation, etc. Great. Now there's another row just below this one. and it says other. And that's just in the event that we came up with another category, another way that the mood of Scrooge's shop was tense. So I don't have anything right now, but I think that we've enough here to move on to our next step. So at this point, I had students move on to some partner work. So let me show you what that looks like. Oh, actually, before I do that, I almost forgot. Just below, I have another part of the graphic organizer, and I did reveal it to students just as I'm doing for you right now. Just below this, it says, what did you see or hear in the film that establishes a tense mood? So we'll work on this at a later date, probably tomorrow, if not the next day. But for now, we're just going to keep this covered up and kind of ignore it and pretend it's not there. Okay, so now we're getting ready to move on to our classwork. And this is what it looks like. So this can be found in Google Classroom. At the very top, there's a new topic called ACC Essay, and this is the graphic organizer. So this first slide here is group work, and this is what we did in class today. I gave everybody a completely different section of the story. So now we're going to focus on this. The mood of the Cratchit's house is somber. And I gave a little note right here because somber is a fancy way of saying sad. I just couldn't bring myself to type sad here. The mood of the Cratchit's house is sad. That's such a basic word. You guys can work with a word that's a little bit more advanced. So that's why we're using somber. A great place to look would be scene 4 or scene 5 if you're trying to prove that the mood of the Cratchit's house is somber. So students worked in groups. They filled in a page number and a citation up here. They did the dialogue, and they did, most classes found dialogue, and then they also found stage directions of the characters' actions or expressions. So at the very least, this row here was completed and this row here was completed. We didn't have a lot of luck finding much sound, or even there really wasn't any music at all that led to a somber mood at the Cratchit's house. But again, we found some great dialogue, so we chose the best piece and we noted it here. And then also stage directions that had to do with characters, actions, or expressions. That was noted here. So if you are in class right now, we're going to take some time to work on this. If you are a student who is absent or you're just refreshing your memory, you should work on this slide on your own. Make sure it's up to date, and then we will proceed with the bottom half tomorrow or the next day. And then we have not even touched slide 2 yet. We will get to that in a future class as well. So this is like part 1. All right, see you soon.